Hey yo, welcome back to AIW's The Card is Going to Change. My name is Ronald Two Legs, and as always, I'm joined by AIW owner John Thorne. What's up, Thorne?
We had a really good podcast that we recorded that didn't work.
Oh, I knew that was going to be the first thing you're going to bring up.
It was very good.
Yeah, that was a long car ride, and we had Mr. Swoggle in the car, and we recorded a podcast for him. Unfortunately, the Zoom that we used I don't know, it was not cooperating, and it kept corrupting the file. I would press record, and then 5 seconds later it would stop. Press record, 5 seconds later, stop. Just could not get it to figure it out, so I apologize. I said that one's on me. It's my bad.
Also joining us on the WCW hotline, calling in for the WCW Road Report, Lee Marshall.
I wish I had nearly as good of a voice as Lee Marshall had.
Yeah,
the Bone Collector, Dom Garrini in the house.
We assure you Dom is all set up on a podcast mic, but for whatever reason, it sounds like he's calling from a payphone on the side of the road.
Podcast mic gifted to me by former AIW ring announcer Steve Guy, so I guess you can blame him for the payphone-esque sounding microphone here.
That's all right.
Former moderator of sorts, I think is what he...
Yes, correct. He was a moderator of sorts, if you want to go that way.
Yeah! Evan Mobley just hit his fourth three-pointer.
Ooh, action. We got action, boss.
Good night for Thorne at the betting on the ponies.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's his second one tonight, Thorne. You had Mobley first basket as well?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Boom. All right.
But yeah, we did just finish up Death of Seasons in Penguin City Brewery in Youngstown, Ohio. What did you think? I know we're not really here to discuss that. This was kind of more of
I was really happy with it. I mean, I think obviously, the summer was, an outlier when we did that show in June. I think you gotta stay within the college school year months. You're just gonna there's just more action going on. More people around. Youngstown is, a small major city in Ohio. I think they've had, quite a bit of kind of population decline over the last 20 or so years, maybe even longer. But I think, when we ran in February and now when we ran in October, both were gigantic successes. And I think, I think a lot of that has to do with college being back in, school being in session. It's apparent there's a lot of young people, there. When we went to the Federal afterwards, all those bars in that downtown area were bumping. So and so was Penguin City. So I was really happy with the show, to be perfectly honest with you.
I think loading up the card as well with some notable names like Swoggle, Danhausen, Priscilla Kelly helped out quite a bit as well.
Yeah, definitely. Did you, speaking of the Federal, when we walked over to the Federal, Thornton, I wanted to ask you, what I thought was really funny, and Dom, you'll maybe find this interesting as well, is that we're in a situation, or not situation, but a state of wrestling where, like normie people, we were walking by and these guys, I don't know how they knew we were wrestlers, but the one guy yelled at us, he didn't yell at us, but he said like, hey, wrestler's name to us, and you know what name he called? Well, probably Prize, I'm sure, is who he's talking to, but he said, hey, what's up, Logan Paul? And I thought to myself, that's where we're at in WWE, that a random guy on the street sees us walking. How he knew Alex was a wrestler, I don't know, whatever, but he called him Logan Paul, and I was just like, holy shit, Lee doesn't look anything like Logan Paul, like nothing like him. Speaking
of Alex Price, has anybody gotten him from the Federal yet, Thorne?
I don't know, I think he was left there by Cool Ass Andy.
Unreal. Not very cool of Andy.
CPR certified.
Can't believe
CPR certified.
I can't believe he didn't come pick him up, dude. What the hell? But yeah, it was a great time all around. Talk about all-time spread too for the federal at the after party. Joy
Not for John Thorne.
Well, yeah,
from what I hear,
Duke said 99.9% of us were happy. But yeah, Joey Vincent Martini's brother took care of everybody after the show. Man, they put out a big old spread, and it was great. That was a good time. It was just that place rules.
Didn't have one thing I would eat on it though.
I can't believe there was no like just plain tendies. Like there wasn't fries over. I thought there was fries over.
Nothing. Nope. It's all exotic food for you exotic eaters.
Good thing you had those car tendies before.
I had a thought today, Thorne. Have you ever ate like a taco before? Like even just like tortilla, meat, and cheese, and that's it?
Nope.
Really? Wow. Okay. That was I wanted to. I drove by a Taco Bell and I was like, I wonder if Thorne's ever had like Taco Bell or just a plain like chicken, cheese, and tortilla taco before.
Nope.
Wow, that's not shocking, but surprising at most.
Yeah, like you'd think cheese quesadilla, like that'd be a non-exotic. Like that's just cheese and quesadilla. That's pretty basic.
Why it's not even chicken quesadilla? You know, just
right?
Chicken, cheese, and a tortilla. Have you ever had a tortilla, Thorne?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thoughts?
Okay.
What are your thoughts on it?
Had it at the Mongolian barbecue.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yes.
God, R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Well,
fuck.
There's kind of a new Mongolian barbecue when you think about it. I know Thorne's got one by him, and I've got one down here by me. Honey Grill, that's the name of it, right, Thorne?
No tortillas there though.
Yeah,
tortillas. I've
been there. It's pretty close. Yeah, it's pretty close. I guess you're right, Dom. That is pretty close. Yeah.
Not the same.
Not that same feel though. Yeah.
Thorne turned me on to it, so.
Yeah, it's not. It's still not the same. But we're not here to talk about my eating habits. We're here to talk about the professional wrestling business.
Speaking of just people being back, talking about that show and the crowd. I mean, the crowd was hot all night long. If you haven't seen it, go back, check the stream, subscribe to our YouTube. We have a premium YouTube, or we have a Patreon as well. The shows get put up day after on our Patreon. The crowd was just feeling it all night. I feel like every match, people were really invested. It was a hot crowd all night long.
Well, when you have a near death in the pre-show match, they usually tend to stay hot the rest of the night.
Dear God. Yeah,
everyone thinks that was an accident, and it's just like, hey, do any of you believe in kayfabe anymore? It's just like the guy's gimmick is a superhero. How else are you supposed to get that over? You take a power bomb over the top rope to the concrete, and then you come back out and you win. I mean,
yeah,
we're telling stories here. We're making movies. All these like old time guys are like, hey, why don't you fucking get a gun next time, guys? It's just like, dude, we're getting. This is how you like. This is the most kayfabe of kayfabe that you can get. He's a superhero character.
Can I tell my story about how I knew it was kayfabe and he was fine?
No, because what I'm saying is this was planned.
I know, but they didn't clue me in, so I freaked out. So I was going to tell the story about how I knew that it was planned at that point.
Go ahead.
So I go to check on the dog, and EVP of Health Jeremy is there, and I start asking him some concussion baseline questions, some simple ones, such as day of the week, where he's at, what he's doing. The dog passes all of them with flying colors, and then for me to know that it was, part of the show, I said, what do you do for work? And he goes, for the month of November, I'm unemployed, and then in December, I'm taking a job with the Disney Cruise Lines. And I said, he's good to go.
I don't know if you're allowed to say that. I think he had to sign an NDA about that.
I think just what he's doing on the cruise, he has an NDA on, so. But that was how I knew. So, but, crazy spot in the pre-show and then just kind of escalating action throughout the show. It was a really good show. I thought it was definitely the best of the Youngstown shows we put on.
Why don't you use a gun next time, guys? I got a lot of those replies to that video.
Oh man, that's great.
Yeah, way to go, guys. Why don't you guys just fucking take a gun out there next time?
I mean, maybe that's what we're don't ruin it. I thought we were keeping kayfabe here. That's what we're gonna do next.
All right, we're not gonna do that. But yeah, I thought it was a really good show. Highly attended, over 400 people in the Penguin City, jam packed. That's all you can really ask for, right? Is just jam-packing these buildings, creating a fun atmosphere, and, hopefully continuing that momentum, for the last 3 of the year, which the second to last one of the year is what we're going to talk about today. AIW's upcoming Cultivate.
Real quick, before we get to Cultivate, though, I do want to say you do need to highlight, because we talked about that. You asked about this in the Patreon or in the Discord. You talk about vibes and having a good time. Penguin City Brewery, man, what'd you get? 5 beers for like $15, man? They got the deals at that place, dude.
I don't know if that was like an official deal or they just saw $15 and they said, "I'll give you 5 of these for all 15."
I mean, that was a deal, dude. There's not really any venues or any places really that has prices like that. I mean, that $3 beers, we're talking, that's good shit, brother.
Also, you got to give a shout out to the Crown Royal reps coming out again. Did you happen to see what the gift was? The special gift?
I didn't.
It was a like little Crown Royal bottle that's like a shot. Like the size of a shot, and one of those velvet Crown Royal bags.
Damn, like a mini boy.
Yeah, it sounded super cool. I actually I don't even like Crown Royal, but I wanted one, but they were all gone.
Yeah, I wanted the card. Dustin put it in the group chat of like the card that you got, like this certifies, your front row, blah, blah. And I was like, that is a kick-ass looking card because it kind of had the theme of like the show with the skull and all that. And I just keep all kinds of shit like that from all the shows we do. And I was like, man, I need one of those. And then we tried to get one at the end and he's like, oh, they're all gone. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, but awesome that Crown Royal continues to come out and support us, and, every little bit helps, as far as their support, ticket sales, it all goes into the pot and helps the company keep going. So, we certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, love to see it. The purple bag is now a part of AIW lore for sure. You see that? He had a big inflatable Crown Royal bottle and stuff too. Then he's got the throne. Like, that's cool, man.
Yeah, right next to the commentary, that gigantic Crown Royal bottle.
Yeah. But before I cut Thorne off, he was talking about the show that we are talking about that is going to be happening in December. It's a new AIW, new AIW concept for a show. AIW's Cultivate.
Yeah, happening at the Roxy on December 12th. Tickets are on sale now. Dice.fm. The Dice app. If anyone that's come to the shows at the Roxy, they do all their ticketing through the Dice app. That's how you can get your Cultivate tickets. 25 front row, 20 second row, 15 get in, obviously plus fees. But we're really committing to this concept, which we're going to get into here in a second. That's what this podcast is all about. But we need people to come out and support it for sure. So get on that Dice app, get those tickets. We've made the tickets, much more affordable compared to, a marquee, big AIW event. You're typically in that 45 to 50 for front row range. So we've cut those, practically in half here for Cultivate, because we want people to come out and see these talents, support them, have them perform in front of a good crowd.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lower tier ticket price. To get in price is $15. I mean, that's pretty crazy. But it's right around John Thorne's birthday too. Forgo getting John Thorne a birthday gift and just get on that Dice app and get tickets to Cultivate.
Let's not go that far there, Pat.
What are you gonna get him for his birthday? Chicken tendies? DoorDash some Wendy's tendies to us.
I mean, it's right between both. It's right between both of our birthdays, really.
That's true
for both you guys. So,
yeah, but no,
don't sell yourself short here, Pat. Come on.
Fair enough. But yeah, I'm pretty jazzed about this. I'm excited to see. I know we said we're talking about this is, we don't do the fresh meat anymore. So this is going to be where you're going to be seeing these brand new AIW talents debuting. As Dom can tell us a little bit more, but I believe we're in the range of like 2 to 3 new talents that should be debuting at Cultivate, right, Dom?
Yeah, so I guess it's probably good to discuss the idea behind Cultivate and, where John's head was at and where my head was at. John had this idea, what do you want to say, Thorne, about a year ago?
Yeah, it's. I mean, it was. We've been.
It's been in talks for like 2 years because I had pitched this idea to you a while ago.
Well, you pitched a whole. You pitched a kind of a different concept.
I pitched like a whole separate brand, I guess, when you think about it, right?
Yeah, kind of. And I wasn't really about that. And you wanted to do it far away, and it wasn't going to be
Correct.
the AW vibe at a place that didn't have alcohol. And I just thought that. If we're going to do shows like this, they still need to be, the same AIW experience, fan experience, what everybody's accustomed to. We didn't want to, that's kind of my non-negotiable, unless it's like some kind of,
like a school event or something.
It's something like some sort of like very special circumstance where we're brought in like even North Canton you can buy beer.
They got
that's what I was gonna say.
They got the alcohol going throughout on all that.
But
no matter what, when you look at it, the concept idea, at least from the wrestling perspective, was always very much the same in terms of. It's very hard with the growth of the AIW Academy, especially over the last 4 to 5 years, to justify once a student debuts to put them on to main shows. It's just the space just isn't there. Then you'll also get a subsect of fans that aren't super happy that there are people that might consider not quite at that level getting on these shows. So it's a how do you serve all the masters issue, and you and I have always discussed the idea of doing some sort of student-based show where a solid 60 to 70% of the talent on the show is talent from the academy or people that maybe the crowd hasn't seen before.
Yeah, I mean...
So go ahead.
Yeah, so, like I was saying before, I want it to be, the same kind of AIW environment, and... we've had so much kind of trouble with venues and things like that over the last, few years, and it's just like, we think we have a place last year where we're going to do stuff like this. For example, like the Mercury Lounge shows were kind of this concept, but not really. We still kind of use those main tier roster people. And then, but they were on Thursdays and, same thing with the Winchester, and you mixed in a couple things here and there. Then, the Winchester says they can't do wrestling. Then the Winchester takes over the Mercury Lounge, and then, they say they can't have wrestling there. So then there goes that idea. Then, I'm just kind of going to walk through it here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Then,
I was going to bring up another reason why the Mercury shows kind of failed at this concept, but go ahead.
But then, we find a place in Akron, and we're talking about doing it, and then like they're just so wishy-washy on dates and things like that. And then we go, oh, okay, well maybe we'll start this at the Tadmore Shrine, because we experimented with the the J-Lit afternoons, and we've done some long seminars and things like that there. So then we start kind of working towards that. Boom, Tadmore Shrine has closed down. Not only do we not have a place to do Cultivate, we don't have a place to do shows in Akron anymore. And, we've established this relationship with the Globe Iron, and, now we found we're going to try a place in Akron, but it's a trial basis. We have to, prove ourselves there at the end of the month in December. I really like the location, everything with the Roxy, but we also didn't want to overdo it in the Cleveland market with, watering down the Globe Iron shows, because the Globe Iron shows, obviously, there's a lot more expense there. There's a lot more, we got to do a lot more to, make those special, because it does come with, added expenses and things like that. So you gotta put, everything you can into those shows, and then that kind of was preventing us from also figuring out a way to maintain the Roxy on the schedule as well. So that's kind of where I landed on approaching them with this concept. and they very much want to work with us more, and we want to give them more stuff. So this is going to be, certainly a trial experience, but the idea is hopefully that we can deliver a crowd. We can do, the show is still going to be the same caliber as an AIW show. It's just going to be featuring new talents, and then that would open up the door for us to potentially do more events at the Roxy throughout 2026. But right now, Cultivate is a pilot program, so to speak. It is certainly a pilot episode, whatever you want to call it. But I just wanted to kind of lay the groundwork on how we were trying to get this off the ground all through 2025, and we were kind of meeting dead ends everywhere we went, and we finally were able to secure the Roxy. But you can go back to what you're going to say before.
Well, yeah, and I think another big thing that we talk about when we talk about that Mercury Music Lounge, those shows, our initial goal, and you and I had always talked about this, when we were kind of putting those shows together, was maybe not using the stars as much and trying to give the students a chance to prove their worth. And we quickly learned that it wasn't quite what we had hoped for, because that last Mercury Music Lounge show didn't do great, and it got to the point where we had to put like Swoggle on the show and Bronson and Nomi on the show and all these other talents, and then it was like, man, and I was almost like, I remember that day of that show, you and me, like, just being so frustrated at the crew of our students that we had invested in to help the show sell, and it just didn't sell. So that was, I think I remember the day after you texted me and just like, hey, we're shelving this idea for now. It did not help that shortly thereafter Mercury got sold to the same people who own the Winchester, which then, brings into that whole insurance issue.
Yeah, and another thing that I really analyzed about that whole experience is I think pre-COVID, for whatever reason, a lot of people liked starting their weekend on Thursdays. So when we were doing those Thursdays at the Winchester in Lakewood, they were always packed. We always pretty much sold them out. Fun atmosphere, fun experience. Thursday, people go into their weekend, already having done something cool. I think post-COVID that changed. Be it. I don't know why, also just that changed for whatever reason. People, we saw less activity, on those Thursday night shows. So, I really thought about that, and I wanted to do a Friday, like a regular AIW event in the Cleveland area, which are typically on Friday nights. So that was, one thing that I think maybe impacted those Thursdays, when we were at the Mercury Music Lounge in 23.
Oh, I agree,
or
for
24.
Sure. I mean,
whenever it was. I think it was 24, 23. I think 23. Yeah.
Just the bar industry as a whole and the live event industry and everything just took a hit as well. There's so many people got used to not going out and doing stuff like that on Thursdays and stuff anymore.
Deep down to it, Pat, the independent wrestling industry in terms of live draws is way down compared to what anybody's going to try to tell you. As someone who is on the road every weekend and sees it, right post-COVID was hot. I mean, people were so excited to be back out, to be able to see stuff. They were hot. But now, with kind of the advent of so much streaming and things like that, it's become entirely rougher to draw because, for the most part, 3/4 of these companies are on some streamer that you can just stay home and watch, or you watch it the next day. It's like it doesn't really have the proponent to go there live anymore.
Well, I have a whole theory on all that. I think just you
have talked about
the content, the world of content creation as a whole, not just in wrestling, is just creating this gigantic abyss, and like things are so quickly through the news cycle, or so quickly not forgotten. And I mean, that's kind of why I've changed up how, like, say, we even announce matches sometimes. You're really not getting ramped up on match announcements until like 2 weeks out of the show, like, because I feel like if you do it too soon, people are going to be like, yeah, that looks awesome, and then forget about it, and then be like, oh, fuck, I forgot that was happening, like, I think you have to kind of zero in a little tighter on promotions, and because people just forget things because it's just lost in this abyss of social media and content, and not just wrestling content, which there is a ton of. I'm just talking about everything is coming at you from every direction. Like, have you gone on like Facebook or Instagram and you see absolutely nothing you follow anymore? Like, it is just stuff that is shoved into your algorithm and your feed to keep you scrolling, and not any of that is like selling tickets. You know what I mean? It's just like content for content for content. And I just think, you're seeing draws go down, but that is the importance of establishing a local base of talent, and a kind of treating it like like a sports team in some regards, to where it's just like you have the whole team out there pushing, to try to fill the room, because I just think relying on a random indie talent that has some buzz isn't going to fill a building anymore like it used to, and it's certainly not selling a DVD or stream or anything anymore, because it's just, if you really want to see that person, you'll be able to see him on a free YouTube stream sometime in the next week or two, because everybody is going free. So there's really no advantage to a lot of this stuff anymore. A lot of the old tricks that used to work, I just don't think are working anymore. And that is also another reason why, we thought Cultivate is very important, because it allows our fan base, and, is somebody in Connecticut going to be excited about this concept? I don't know. Probably not. But it allows our fan base to come along for the ride with these people and see different talents, new talents, sometimes talents that are only going to probably be seen on Cultivate. Some talents are going to, if the concept catches on, excel and, move through Cultivate and, hopefully become a big time player, at the Globe Iron shows or, at the Penguin City shows. But essentially it allows us to really kind of give more to our base of fans, and then hopefully also grow that base of fans through these new talents as well.
Yeah. And that's the idea. You and I kind of talked about this when we went to the NXT house show in Cleveland. I'm not going to say this is AIXT, but this is kind of what our game plan is for the most part for this concept. The concept of this show is to take talent that it maybe isn't quite ready to be on the main card yet, mix them with maybe some vets to work with them and teach them, maybe one good name from AIW like me or like a Wes Barkley or someone along those lines to kind of juice the card up a little bit and then go from there. Also, you and I have talked, and this is going to be the chance for new talent that has blown our DMs up or has talked to me while I've been on the road, hey, how do I get into AIW? This is a chance maybe to give those guys a shot as well. Yeah,
this is going to be kind of like a landing spot, a jumping off point for us to get eyes on people, be it from our own school, be it from other schools, be it, veteran people that are looking for opportunities. I get inundated with emails and resumes, and, I explained this to somebody last Saturday that kind of rode along into the show. I just said, hey, you can write all the seminars and all the training sessions you've gone to on a piece of paper, and it does not tell me anything about if you're good, if my fan base is going to like you, if you would fit in here, because culture is also another big thing. You know, are you going to fit in with the people at AIW? You know, it's just like a sports team, right? Like if, you know, you're not going to be able to, you know, sit and, you know, be like a normal person back there, you know, that's also a big issue. But you can't tell that when somebody emails you this one sheet resume, you know, that just says, hey, I'm, you know, certified in, you know, mouth to mouth, or whatever, you know, like CPR.
Or I've done this number of seminars, like.
Yeah, I don't care. Well, I mean, that
thanks.
does.
I don't care. I don't care what seminar you've done.
That's that's for your own good. Like that's for your own good and your continued education. And I think it's great that you do seminars, but like it still does not tell me like if you're good or bad. You know what I mean? Or if you know you're going to add anything to a show. I mean, it looks great on a resume and maybe promoters fall for it, but like I just don't think that you can evaluate talent that way. The only way you can evaluate talent is to get them in front of, you know, the AIW crowd and, you know, let them sink or swim.
Yeah, I really think the Roxy is the perfect building for it too, kind of going back to what you're saying with having Globe Iron in Cleveland proper and then also having the Roxy and having to kind of bounce back and forth. I think the Roxy is the perfect venue for this type of idea and this type of show. I love that building, and I think it fits the vibe perfectly.
And initially, when we thought about the Roxy as a venue, we actually, if I'm not mistaken, we asked about the smaller room first, right? Because old wrestling had run in there, and we put our full-size ring in there. Plus, we still have the pony ring that we purchased years ago that's kind of just in storage and not getting used. So it was our thought process, like, well, if we need to, we can use that.
Well, and initially, you know, what I wanted to do for this concept, and, you know, it depends on how it's going to go on the first one. But initially, I wanted to book a bunch of these in places that can only hold 100 or less. And we just, you know, you got to kind of compromise on that part of the idea, you know, when you have a building like the Roxy that's available and interested in it. But initially I wanted to make it like a very exclusive thing, like 100 people and that's it. And maybe it goes back to that, you know, one day, but
that's,
you know, I just,
that's really tapping in on that FOMO that you were kind of trying to create too with some of this stuff of going smaller. Like that's like the ultimate go small. Well, I like that. I like the idea of that.
And it's just like it doesn't put a burden on people that don't want to come, or feel like they need to support everything we do. You know, if it was only 100 tickets, but you know, it's just again, you know, the Roxy is such a cool space, and you want to keep that relationship open and thriving as well. You know, so. The small room at Mahal's wasn't available, so, you know, I said, okay, we'll do it in the big one, and we'll see how it goes. And, you know, that's added some pressure to the people that are going to be booked for it, because it's up to them to fill it now. And I mean, kind of, you know, through this podcast, hopefully people listening are going to come out and support this show, but, you know, it's a lot of pressure to put on these talents that we're going to put on there too, because if they can't even get 100 in there, it's going to look bad, right? And then, like, I don't know how the Roxy people are going to feel about it. You know, there's a lot of kind of, you know, once one domino kind of falls over, right? Like, they all might go, or you just never know how it's going to go. So, but initially that was kind of, you know, part of the original kind of pitch when I kind of took, you know, some of Dom's idea, took some of what we were doing before, and I kind of like, you know, meshed it together into its own thing. Like when I kind of wrote the pitch out to everybody about what I wanted to do, like a venue of 100 or less was certainly, you know, one of the key components of it. And, you know, obviously we've compromised on that a little bit.
We sure have, but it's okay, because I think the initial idea wasn't necessarily some debuts, and as Pat brought up, and we've probably been talking now about 25-ish minutes around this, but as of now, you know, I've talked with Derek and then Wes, who, for any of those who don't know, Wes has actually become another trainer now at the school. He had covered some classes for Derek and I had seen a very big passion for him in teaching, and we had an open schedule spot on a Monday to add a fourth day of training, and I asked Wes if he wanted to do it, and he decided to step up and take a class or take the lead on that. So Wes is one of the trainers now as well. So
married to the game.
Married to the game very much. So
not take a class.
Yeah,
he started a class essentially, like a Monday
started
class.
I mean, the Monday class. I had the idea. I've always really we do things a little differently at the academy. We never cycle in classes in and out or new kids in and out per se. Some academies will say, hey, we're only taking new students every 6 months, every 8 weeks, whatever. We've never done that, which we've thought it maybe cannibalizes business to a point. Because if you tell somebody that's ready to come and train, hey, you got to wait 6 months, in 6 months they might not want to be a wrestler anymore. So we've always kind of kept open enrollment at the school. So sometimes the way classes get taught, everything is very mixed. So I'm not saying it's a fall through the cracks thing, but sometimes we need some fine tuning. And I've always wanted a basics class, and obviously living over an hour away from Cleveland, it makes it hard for me to do more than the 2 days a week I'm up there. So that was the idea behind finally adding a very real basics 101 class where we're just doing the most basic of basic stuff. And I thought that was where Wes would thrive. You thought that was where Wes would thrive, and Wes has, taken the bull by the horns and really, really done well with it.
I really think that's another added thing for what you guys bring at the academy too, because we've talked on the podcast a bunch about all this stuff, the student shows and the seminars, everything you guys do for the academy, but that's just adding another class like that, that you could come to if you're trying to become a professional wrestler, and you know that every Monday you could go to a class that's just straight. Say you've been wrestling training for 6 months, going to that Monday night class every time ain't gonna make you worse, man. You know what I mean? Like just training like that and being able to have that much exposure. You could train 4 days a week with AIW, three or 4 days.
4
a
days.
week.
Well, Pat, I wish some of our students had your mindset.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously best laid plans, but I just hear that stuff and I'm like, man, it seems to me like you guys just offer so much. 4 nights a week. I mean, that's incredible.
I mean, we offer 4 nights. So if you think about it, on an average month, you're having 4 nights per week and at least one show per month to come and learn at a show, whether it be doing something live, whether it be learning a quasi trade in the wrestling industry like like helping film backstage promos, helping run the camera, sitting next to Chase and yourself and doing something like that. So honestly, our academy, when you really cut the brass tacks, gives you the opportunity to learn so many hats in wrestling. And I wish that some of our kids truly understood that and viewed the days of work at like a show less as punishment and more of an opportunity for lack of a better term.
And we also do ring rentals, which allows them, a chance to see how other shows operate, network, all kinds of different things are available. But, it is, I don't know if it's generational or whatever it is, but it is hard to get people to understand that, like, wrestling school is like continued education at all times, and it's not like you go to class and then you don't think about it until the next class sort of thing. This is like it's a total commitment. It needs to become a total obsession if you want to really make it, unless you are like a one-of-one superior athlete. But even these days, I still think that I don't think that's like even what would really make you stand out, because you could still be so boring and not know the real, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of unwritten bullshit in wrestling, as you guys, I'm not telling you guys nothing you don't know, but it's like you could be this all-star talent, but if you don't know the other shit, then you're gonna get lost. Right. Because like you said, this abyss of content and wrestlers and how many people are out there. Yeah, it's super difficult, and we try to provide so much value when you come to the AIW Academy, but it's just like some people just, I don't know, they just don't understand how to take advantage of it.
It's partially a generational gap, because, and you and I have talked about this before. Back when JT was running the Cleveland All Pro School. Heck, even in the early 2000s, it was like almost like a secret fraternity to get into pro wrestling school. And now it's just as simple as a Google search. I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was Hardway was at training last week, and he asked everybody how they found the school. and I would say 70% of the kids said Google.
That's why you start your company with an A, brother.
Wow.
I mean, that's part of the way how I found the school too, though. To be honest with you, was just Googling wrestling schools.
Not to talk, not to be like a back in my day guy, but when I trained to be a wrestler, I don't even know if you know this, and when Duke trained to be a wrestler, every training session we had to set the ring up and tear the ring down because
you told me that
we were training at a racquetball court, like a racquetball place. And they would allow us to rent time on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then allow us to store the ring in a closet. So every Tuesday we would have to get in. We would get in there an hour before classes would start. Had to set the whole ring up, train, tear the ring down, put it away, come back Thursday, do the same exact thing. Like, these kids are mad that they got to take the ring down once a month.
Even you and I have talked about when I started the school, we were at the chop shop on Detroit.
No roof building, right?
Pretty much no roof. I mean, if it rained,
the garage or whatever.
If it rained, the literal ring was soaked, so you couldn't do anything besides chain wrestle. There was no air conditioning, and there was no heat in the winter. Biggins and I think Biggins had bought this crappy patio heater thing. Never worked. There were classic days where it was so cold out that the garage door code wouldn't work and we couldn't get the garage door up. So it'd be like, oh, hey, sorry guys, no training tonight.
You see, now I'm getting hot because this is all about creating an opportunity for these kids, and this is why it took so long to create this opportunity for these kids. Because it's very difficult to want to throw money down, all this stuff that goes into putting on a show, and you don't know if they're gonna take it seriously or draw any tickets or do good or get the wrestler the wrestler cold, which is, I've debuted now, so now I just stopped coming to training and I'm a big time star. Some people get a cold, some people get a fucking fatal sickness of that, and never come back and never amount to anything. So it is really difficult to want to take that leap and, put it out there. But, the one thing that had happened is when we started the school, it was obviously to get ahead of this NXT raid, right? And, there was not going to be those talents available like there used to be. Then AEW started. They took a lot more of those talents. There has not been a lot of time for the indies to replenish, really. But another thing that's happened is we've continuously been training people and debuting people, and they don't go anywhere, right? And that's not to a fault of them, but they're not people now there is kind of a roadblock in a lot of ways, to where it was just people came through AEW, they left AEW, they moved on. And now that we've gotten more kind of in-house talent base, created our own talent, the less people are leaving. So it's created this roadblock, and there's no longer been a clear path to debut students that are, actively training now. As time goes on, the prior classes have become, the mainstay talents on AEW shows and kind of cornerstone talents. And, unless they get signed, they're not leaving. So, it's created this kind of, there's kind of a clog in, the pipeline to debut. And, that's a problem that I recognized. And, are we going to throw, 6 people out there in a scramble and then they never wrestle again? That's not going to help anybody. We used to debut people like that, in a scramble, and then they slowly.
Well, you used to call. I remember back, you and Biggins used to call the scrambles developmental.
Right. The scrambles were, for those that don't know, a lot of the times a scramble was AEW's version of developmental, because you would be able to have somebody go in there, hit their, 2 or 3 best things and then get out of the way, and then the other person in there would hit 2 or 3 of their best things and then get out of the way.
And it also gave you the chance to mix them with some veterans too in those matches.
Right. And it was kind of like a win-win scenario, but now what happens if you do that? They got nowhere to wrestle next month because all the spots are full, and then you also, have to remain competitive, somewhat on a national scale. You have to continue to bring in some of these talked about talents, names, different things, because you can't justify, selling tickets for this and then, not giving fans value either. You know what I mean? We have to it's a balancing act, but, that whole balancing act is, there's no room for new talent, any way you cut it, like there's just been you don't want to get rid of the AIW mainstays that have established themselves with the crowd, that have established fan bases, in their areas. You don't want to get rid of the national guys or international guys that, the diehard wrestling fans, that's what AIW is known for is, this is where they can see these types of talents. So you have to continue to balance those two things. And, also you have a wrestling school with, sometimes 20 plus brand new people training, until some of them weed themselves out. But we realized that sooner or later, and we had a few people that were very close to debuting, and there's nowhere for them to go, and they just stopped coming, and we realized that there's a problem there because they want to be wrestlers, they don't want to be professional ring crew people. So we realized that there's a problem that needed to be fixed, and that's why we started. As much as some of the students pissed me off, a lot of them pissed me off with just how unengaged they are. We do have to give them a landing spot, and we do have to give them a clear path to making a debut. Now, if they do that and then they continue to piss me off, then that just means they don't get booked anymore. But now we've created this opportunity for them to excel or fail.
I think you're fulfilling your portion of what you're offering is what you're,
right. I'm going to hold up my end of the bargain,
right? And
now it's the ball's in their court, right? And I mean, it's incredible, like that. We've even stated this long before we announced it, and like there were initially 7 or 8 people that Dom and Derek had brought to me, and since we have announced it, 4 or 5 of them have just vanished.
Disappeared.
And they were on
thin air.
They were on the list. They were like, these are the 8 people that we think should debut December 12th. And I said, hey guys, I made an announcement privately internally to our students, and I said, hey, here's the date, here's a poster, here's what's happening. Now's the time to, for everybody that's been working hard, that is very close, now you have a destination. And like I swear to you, 4 or 5 of those names I have not seen since I sent that message.
It's crazy.
Dude, that's a whole thing. Because like around a year ago, right before Jeff Steele debuted, Jeff Steele was in a group message with like 4 people. And Jeff Steele was the only one of those that when I said like, hey, we're like 3 months away, all of you, Jeff Steele was the only one who kept coming. Well, we had Caitlin, our female tradie, who had to have double hip surgery, so she would have been debuted by now had that not happened. But the other crew in there was just stopped coming, just all around, just stopped coming. And it's just like, I don't understand it. You come and you do all this work, and we're not like every other wrestling school around or this area. That other schools in this area, they're gonna debut you in 6 months to 8 weeks to like 6 months. Because they want to sell tickets, they're going to put you in a battle royal. They're going to put you in these weird singles matches. We have to hold the crew that comes out of our school to a higher standard. And one of the very first things that I tell in any email I send to somebody that's going to come to our academy is, you're going to train for a year before you debut. Now, is there an absolute chance that you can beat that year? Absolutely. But you have to be extremely special, and you have to get it. But I try to at least set realistic expectations. Like, hey, you're going to be here for a year before you even think about debuting.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't believe in, wheeling these people out here. There's some programs that will get you out there into a match in 3 months, and it's just like, at that point, like, you're just learning on the fly anyway. You know what I mean? Like, at that point, there's not possibly anything that you could have learned that's going to make you excel as a talent, or for fans to take you seriously as a peer or an equal to anybody else on those shows. You are being put out there to look like what you are, which is, a wrestling student that nobody is going to take seriously. We don't like that. We like bringing people in like they're equals. Like, and this is in no way a real comparison, but, my theory on it is to treat it like the ECW House of Hardcore, where, guys came in with gimmicks and characters. Like, and I know it's not how they first come in, but like, for example, like a Danny Doring and Roadkill, I'm sure they did other things. They did some weird squash matches or something, but essentially, once they got a gimmick on them, they were treated as like stars that came from the ECW training school. And there's other people like that, like Chris Chetty and other people that ECW debuted like that along the way. But what I thought was unique about it is, they were treated as, they could beat anybody, and that's how we want our students to be treated. We want them to look like equals, to look like professional wrestlers. We don't want them to be viewed as, here's like a guy that's going to come out here and lose that sucks. You know what I mean? And doesn't have good gear, doesn't have any sort of knowledge or moveset. We want everybody to be as complete of a package as they can be and be prepared. And obviously, they're going to still learn along the way. But, with that year of training under their belt, they're going to have a lot more comfortability and just tools in their, kind of toolbox than a kid that's thrown out there after 3 months who then has to put all this together on the fly. And I think they may debut quicker, but it sets them back years, in my opinion, when, the schools that do it that way is, yeah, you're technically a professional wrestler a lot sooner, but like, it sets you back years as far as, being prepared and readiness, because you're going to go out there and you're going to work with people and you're not going to know what the fuck you're doing. And then you're not going to learn anything for a long time, because people don't want to put themselves in situations where they're going to get hurt. So like, a veteran's not going to be like, yeah, let's do all this cool shit. They're going to know you don't know how to do it.
Well, another point, you and I have always kind of discussed this as well. You're always going to have that initial fan bump for your debut, right? But how do they keep coming? You better be good, because if you go out there and you have your first match and it's a stinker, everybody's just going to go to your first match and say, hey, well, I went and watched Billy's first match, and hey, he's doing the wrestling thing, instead of, man, I went and watched Billy's first match, he kicked ass, and the whole show was good, so I think when Billy wrestles again, we should go back.
Right, and I mean, that's, that's just smart business, but, anybody that's been at the Fresh Meat shows or anything like that, like, there's been, the same thing. Those kids are treated like equals to whoever they were matched up against. And, the people they were matched up against were to, help bring them up to a level, and that's all by design, because, if you go out there and you suck, and then like your uncle that thinks that you're training to be a pro wrestler is stupid, and then you look stupid in front of him, it's going to be a real long fucking Thanksgiving, because he's just going to tell you how stupid you fucking looked and how he was right the whole time. But like, if you go out there and you look cool and like you can at least hang and you don't fuck up too bad, and like the rest of the crowd, it becomes infectious, then like you look like an equal pro wrestler to all those people, that didn't like it or, thought it was stupid. And you kind of, you kind of prove people wrong in a lot of ways. And then it also, from a business standpoint, it will hopefully keep those people coming back to support you for future shows.
Correct.
Yeah, you've said it before. You don't ever want to put someone in a position where they're in the ring and someone in the crowd says, when do the real wrestlers get here? Because it's not going to do anyone any favors.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's, you want to look the part the best you can, and that's what we try to prepare people to do. And like I said, there were a lot more people, according to Dom and Derek, that were ready to go, and they've vanished. So if they listen to this podcast and they're wondering, like, when they were going to wrestle, it was probably December 12th.
Well, and that brings another point about the current crop of debuts, plus the students, that are going to be on the show. I'll name them as they're on the flyer. The Zay Garcias, the Vic Vices of the world, the Slugger Austin James. It's important.
Melee, I think was
Alex Melee, the 20-ticket man himself. It's important for that crew to get their folks out there and to make this work, for future students to debut, because this is where our game plan would be to debut future students. So as long as the debuts we put on there plus these guys, if they all draw, then this continues to be a concept. And then as opposed to there only being a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow once a year, then there's 3 different times a year for crews to debut. So it takes rid of it completely changes where we are on it. It's, as John said earlier, it's so hard for us to plan a debut because you can't put on a Globe Iron, and it's hard to put it on even an Akron or a Youngstown for that matter. So what do you do? So if we have Cultivate, running however many times, I can look at a kid that's training and say, okay, hey, this show is where we're going to debut you, and it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it creates that clear path and that pipeline, and again, it gives the opportunity for the people that have debuted but have not found their footing yet, as far as working their way up into the regular roster spots. There's a lot of people that get opportunities on free views and things like that, but at the end of the day, like. You brought it up, Alex Melee, right? Like, he came and he said, hey, I want to be on Absolution. I'm going to sell 20 tickets. Nobody else came and did that. Nobody else suggested that. But like,
same thing. We did the same thing for Jaylit.
But right. But like, it's, and that's another example. Tommy Rain, he's also going to be on the Cultivate shows. He said he thought that he could help get some people there for Jaylit, and it's just like, now they're going to be in featured spots, not a free view spot, featured spots. But
you're on the poster. You get to show that to your friends, your family, and then they get a little more jazzed up to come for sure.
But I mean, again, these guys that have not been able to find their place, this is an opportunity, right? Like Dom said 3, but it could be 6, it could be 1. We don't really know what Cultivate's going to be for 2026. Like I said, this is a pilot on December 12th, but and maybe this is boring for people to listen to, because this is really just like a like a passive aggressive way to yell at all the students that listen to the podcast.
A little bit,
but it is.
We even brought Dom on to yell at him with you.
It's very much a wide open opportunity for everybody. If they get out there and they flyer and they hang up posters and they tell people, I'm sure some regular AIW fans are going to show up, but to fill the Roxy, I don't know. Right? Like, I don't know.
And deep down, that's part of the reason for the lower ticket prices as well. When you look at it, A, it's to fill the building up, and then B, it's to maybe let the regular fans know, like, hey, when you buy a ticket to this, you're supporting us, but you're not going to get the normal roster on this. It's definitely going to be more of a developmental roster.
I mean, they're not really supporting us per se. They're supporting the future in the academy.
The future of this company. Yeah. I mean, you got to look at it. Wes Barkley had to come from somewhere. I had to come from somewhere. Derek Dillinger had to come from somewhere. Sam Holloway had to come from somewhere. So if we don't have the ability to get these guys on shows and debuted, we're never going to be able to create the future.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is you just never know who's going to be who they're going to be, right? Like, you just don't know. And this is just an opportunity to create a space for that, a platform for that, and to get not only from our school though, right? Like,
yeah. So that was another thing I was going to bring up.
We're kind of opening it up, in a lot of ways to, if you want to submit some things and stuff like that, we're gonna take a real look at it, and see, and this is, for other schools in the area, for other talents around the country. It's open.
Yeah.
It's open season in a lot of ways for us to start developing talent and get your foot kind of in the door a little bit, and give people a fair opportunity to to hopefully work their way up, or let us see them.
One of the most common questions I get asked when I'm on the road is, hey, how do I get an AIW? And one of my boilerplate answers for the last 2 years has been, it's hard, guys. Like, we don't really have a lot of open spots. So if you're not a name, I don't really think that there's a really good opportunity for you unless you want to come up and set the ring up, get some FaceTime in front of John, and then I'll recommend him book you, on like a Freeview or something, which, we talked about, you guys talked about on the North Canton episode, but like, kid like Connor Hopkins, lives about 8 hours away, drove 8 hours to come and set the ring up and wrestle at the Street Fest. And, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that he's on my list of guys I'd love to give an opportunity to on a concept like this.
Yeah, I could definitely see him on a Cultivate. That was what I was going to say about, for our normal fans, too, that come to everything, and say there's another opportunity in wrestling of, like, the surprise factor. You never know who you're going to see on these shows. I don't know as if every single match will be announced with a graphic, stuff like that. You never know who you could see on some of these cards. You could be at a show supporting some of the newer kids, and all of a sudden it pops up a guy like that. Or I know we said maybe like a High Seas or some of these teams, that tag teams that come in, you see maybe once or twice, but there's not a lot of spots for them on regular shows. You could see some stuff like that.
Like,
and that's also
point, High Seas is like the perfect. Do you want to? All right, I'll finish. High Seas is like the perfect kind of like concept of like a veteran tag team to come in and maybe work some younger guys, and then it gives those younger guys a chance to learn with a great set of veterans like High Seas. Gives High Seas a chance to work under the AIW banner, and then maybe if High Seas or the other team hits with the crowd, that gives them a chance for something down the line.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's just this is also open to veteran talents and things like that to show a different skill set, and which is hey, come in and work with these young kids and get a good match out of them. There's opportunity for that too. And again, like High Seas is a great example, right? Like they did a couple shows this year, but it's hard for them to get on shows, and unless it's the right opportunity, the right situation. But that they're a great example of a team you could potentially see on a Cultivate card, and also to kind of give it a little bit of specialness to where it's not going to just be brand new kids coming out of a wrestling school either. There's going to be a mishmash of levels of talent, but we certainly want to try to keep it different than a regular AIW show. You're probably not going to see your Chuck Stones, Eric Taylors, Sam Holloways, Isaiah Broners, even Dom and Derek and Wes.
Yeah, I mean,
you just maybe you get one of those people, but for who you're routinely expecting to see at an AIW show, you're probably not going to see it at Cultivate. We really want to put a focus on new and different talents as much as we can. But again, you may see a couple of those people here and there, but the main focus is really going to be on new and different talents.
Yeah, and that's really where the concept is. It's new and debuting. It's new talents to the company. It's debuting talents from the wrestling school, and then those kids, like you talked about, trying to find their footing. Like, it's hard to find a spot on a card for an Alex Melee. That's not to say that Alex doesn't come to practice. He doesn't work his ass off. It's just, it's hard for a guy who hasn't necessarily made his hit yet with our crowd to find him spots on cards.
Yeah, and some of these people are still, again, they can have a great match in front of an AIW crowd, but they haven't found that great connection with an AW crowd. And, you know, that's the thing that we also want to focus in on is, you know, do we need to tweak a character? Do we need to change some things up? Do you need to wrestle a little differently? It's really hard to do, you know, it's really hard for us to figure that out, you know, when we are booking them in a very protected way, say in a free view or in a, you know, in a scramble or something like that. Those things are very protected because we don't want them to go out there and fail in front of a big AW crowd, right? Like we want them to kind of, you know, get the crowd a little familiar with them, get in, get out, and, you know, try not to have any mistakes, to where these Cultivate shows are going to allow them to get, you know, take a little bit more risks, try some things out, wrestle maybe more extended formats, all kinds of different things. I mean, you know, it's called Cultivate because, you know, we need to cultivate this new talent. We need to, you know, let it grow and, you know, in form and flourish and, you know, hopefully, you know, expand their way, you know, up into becoming major players in AIW. But on the flip side of that, not everybody's going to hit, right? Like, you know, but this is very much going to be sink or swim formatting and, you know, giving people those opportunities that they may not have gotten, you know, on a free view or, you know, at North Canton. Again, you know, these are all situations where they're going out there and they're doing what they know to not make themselves or the company look bad. To where Cultivate, you know, we're going to allow some risks. You know, we want everybody obviously to, you know, do their best, but we're going to allow them, you know, to take some of those risks, right? Like, you know, like scared money don't make money, right? So like they're going to go out there and they're going to, you know, they're going to try some things out, and some of it's going to work and some of it's not going to work. But that's kind of the point of these shows. Go ahead.
Something that would be a live crowd only too, no streaming. We're not going to be streaming these shows?
They may stream on, you know, the membership tier. I don't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that anything hurts to doing that.
To be honest, I didn't even think about it, but I don't see why it wouldn't stream. You know,
okay.
Like,
yeah, just the way you were describing it with, you know, kind of giving a longer leash to, you know, and that's the way we've talked about before with no streaming and just kind of taking no stream takes a little bit of pressure off. I think
it is important to stream it in terms of, you know, working for not only the live crowd but also, you know, having that video and having a reason to output in case, especially if you have some people that are traveling in for this, or if you have family that maybe can't make it in for it and you're debuting, you know, I think it's important to have that option for them.
Sure.
And obviously we're in a spot where we know we can stream. Also, if you think we're letting Chase Oliver have a day off, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, we let him wrestle again. Come on.
Exactly.
He runs the stream in his gear. I've seen him do it before.
He has. It was, you know, so... No, I mean, I'm excited about this concept, and like Thorne has said, this is a concept almost 2+ years in the making. You know, from a concept that I brought up to a concept that John really refined into what we think will work for the company. So at this point, you know, it's about the kids going out and delivering and helping, you know, push the tickets to their friends, family, etc., and really going out there, and also on John and I for putting together a card that will, you know, live up to some expectations for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, to go back to the streaming thing, I think you know the longer leash isn't necessarily about streaming, in my opinion. It's just kind of setting the precedent that they're gonna, you know, they're gonna kind of have the handcuffs off a little bit in a lot of ways, so that they have, you know, time to create, and they have their, you know, they have their opportunity, you know, to grow into a real talent. That's what I mean, kind of by the, you know, the longer leash on things. But I think certainly, you know, that should be available to our streaming fan base as well to see, you know. You just never know what's going to happen. Somebody may go out there and have a fucking absolute classic, and some of them may go out there and just fucking stink the place up. But that's what I mean by we're not going to protect them like that, like we do in a lot of ways when they're in a free view, and it's just like, okay, guys, you got 6 minutes, just do, this, and this, and, get in and get out. We're going to give them a little bit more of an extended format there. And it's up to them if they're going to excel or if they're going to fail. And, I certainly don't think streaming has any implication on that. But, I also don't want to, exclude the people that sign up for our service either. That's actually going to be something like for December, for example, you're going to get 2 streams.
Yeah.
As long as everything goes well at the Royal Palace, you should get 2 streams in the month of December. So the price doesn't go up no matter how many live streams we do.
Yeah, perfect example right there. We opened it up to questions in our Discord, but we pretty much answered kind of everything.
Do you got anything to add about what you're looking forward to about Cultivate 2 Legs?
I mean, I'm excited for it. I like I said, ever since we got away from, doing the show, the in between J-Lit, where we're debuting people, I don't get to come to the academy at all. And like the students, as far as the wrestling side, I just see them when they're at shows. So I don't really know anything, until people debut. I know nothing about them. So I'm excited to get a more opportunity, to start seeing these people come through the academy and stuff.
Because I mean, at one point, you were coming to shows and stuff. Like from a fan's perspective, what do people think about the, do they like seeing the new people? Do they not like seeing the new people? I guess I've never really thought much about that.
I used to like it. I just think this show provides more, like, so it's, let's say there's somebody out there who doesn't really love it when you see a newer kind of trainee or like newer graduate come through because they're like, a newer whatever, they don't have their shit together, they don't have this character fully figured out. These Cultivate shows and this stuff is going to give them so many more opportunities to get out there and wrestle and figure this stuff out, so that way when they do come up to the main shows, they have a bit more, these characters, all this stuff is just more refined. It's just giving these guys and these people, these wrestlers, this many more opportunities is only going to make the company better as a whole for everybody, in my opinion. Fans, the wrestlers, everybody. I just think it's up to them and the kids that are debuting to put in the work on the other side of it, and that's getting the name out there, telling people, hey, you like professional wrestling, you got to come check this out. It's people aren't just going to show up because they saw a flyer once. You have to talk to people. You have to get them out there, and having these shows and a reason to get these students and the new trainees in a better state of, helping promote, man, because that's the thing. You're the promoter of AIW, but the wrestlers themselves in a whole got to promote themselves as well. You know what I mean? You got to get people to come out and get through the doors.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't get 10 people to show up to see you, why would the WWE ever want to hire you? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's very much like you got to learn grassroots promotion because it promotes yourself as a personal brand. Everybody has to look at it like they're a band on a big, battle of the bands or something like that. Everybody's their own individual brand or band or however you want to describe it. But, I also think, like you said, refining characters and things like that. Like, here's an example. Like Alex Melee, the video game guy, he still hasn't totally figured out how to put that all together, right? Like, I don't think the fans are making the connection like they should. I don't think they're maybe as engaged with him as they should. And he's probably going to try some things out, and try to figure out how to get that last piece of the puzzle together. And I also think, by calling it Cultivate, but also, doing this podcast and really kind of getting all this information out there, it creates context for those people, like you said, that maybe don't like the new people, right? Like, they're not going to come to the show and not understand what they're coming to see, right? Like, they're not going to come and be like, where's Wes Barkley? Where's, Isaiah Broner?
They still
you know what I mean? But like, we're trying to give context to this and engage expectations. But some of the greatest stuff, you'll ever see as a wrestling fan is when two guys go out there and do something, you know, when you have zero expectations of them, right? Like, sometimes that's the best spot to be in as a wrestler is when fans have no expectations of you.
Sure.
You know, like, you can go out there and you can really make a name for yourself on a platform like this, because for the most part, even though some AIW fans have seen some of these people, I feel like everybody's kind of coming in at a clean slate, you know, a blank slate. Like, I don't think, you know, some of these talents have, you know, really, like, been gravitated towards, you know, by the fans, right? Like, I think that, you know, even somebody like Austin James, who's been on a lot of, you know, undercards at AIW, I still think there's a lot for him to develop, right? There's a lot of things that he can do, you know, as far as getting in there and doing some long form wrestling, but he doesn't get a chance to do that very often because he's kind of usually in some kind of multi-person of some sort. Not always, but for the most part, right? Like, it's going to give, you know, someone like him, you know, who maybe people fucking hate, you know, they hate him, but like, it's going to allow him to, you know, go out there and do what we know, which is he's super talented. He just, you know, based on, you know, the role he's cast in and all that stuff, like, you don't really have the opportunity to go out there and show a lot of that, you know, in these situations. And that's just kind of the constraints of, you know, pro wrestling. You have to work for a whole show and not just yourself. And, you know, Cultivate is going to kind of, again, take some of those reins off of these people and kind of, you know, put them out there, let them go loose. But we really wanted to do this podcast to give it like context, engage expectations and all that stuff. But, you know, and that's why we've lowered the ticket prices for it. You know, we're trying to kind of get ahead of that and, you know, get the word out there, because we do want people to come out and support these shows. Because again, if you do more of them, we're going to add more of them to the calendar next year, and you're going to see more new talents. And, you know, not only from the AW Academy, but again, like Dom said, we're kind of, you know, opening it up, you know, for potential out-of-towners and carloads and different things to come through. And that is exciting for the fans, I think, in a lot of ways, too.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, you never know who you could see.
And deep down, you know, another hope would be that we find one of those 100 to 200 cap venues, maybe down in Stark County area, and then that becomes a chance to run a Cultivate here in the Stark County area. And then maybe, you know, we find something in Youngstown, you know, that could be a supplemental to the Penguin City shows. Like, we have 3 or 4 students from Youngstown right now. It would be much more beneficial for us as a company to debut them where their family doesn't have to drive over an hour to come and see them debut.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's a lot of opportunity for growth for AIW and talent through adding this, you know, these Cultivate shows to the schedules. But if we feel like we're overdoing it or it's causing the main shows to suffer, you know, everything's got to remain balanced. And if there's some sort of, you know, kind of interference there somewhere along the ways, like these Cultivate shows could go away as easily as they come. So, you know, it's certainly, again, it's like I said, it's a pilot, it's trial and error. We certainly don't want to see a negative impact on the main shows because of Cultivate and things like that. So it is certainly a balancing act that we're going to have to figure out. But I think by lowering the ticket prices, hopefully it should just kind of, you know, everything should hopefully remain stable in how they've been going.
Yeah, I'm excited. Anything else you guys want to get to? Like I said, we pretty much covered everything that was asked in the Discord. There's a handful of questions. Shout out to Jose, Nick.
Dom, what do you got? You got anything else you want to add?
Razor Man.
Well, I think there was a couple questions directed directly at me.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to answer those or this was strictly Cultivate stuff. But
no, we can answer it. I mean, I'm on here.
Fair enough.
Maybe I can answer them for him.
Well, I can answer the one question about Violence is Forever.
Well, let him let them ask him. Come on.
That was going to say, he's here for that one, so you don't even have to take the blame. First, our old pal Scott Random, he was curious about, Dom, as you've said, a well-traveled independent wrestler. Who are a few independent talents outside of Ohio that you are seeing bigger things for in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, so I think like especially this also works in with the Cultivate idea of like people that I've kind of seen around and think that there's some possibilities of growth potential. One that I thought of right away was Manny Lowe. He is a young man out of North Carolina, trains with Firestar Pro Wrestling, and LeBron Cozone, who's also a pretty great rising star in professional wrestling. Manny's awesome. He is really kind of putting it all together. He also comes out to 3-6 Mafia Thorn, which is awesome.
Yo, let's go.
Yep.
That was my first entrance music.
Yeah, he comes out to 3-6 Mafia.
To the Club Up 96.
He's awesome. So I think Manny Lowe is someone to watch. I just got done, obviously, touring Germany with WXW, and there were 2 female talents I thought were very skilled and talented. I actually wrestled them as a tag team. They're called Hyperactive, but it's Anita Vaughn and Sapphire Reed. Thought they did great, in the match I had with them, and then they did really well during the tournament over there. Trying to think of some other talents. Obviously, we talked about him, but I think Connor Hopkins is someone to look out for this year. I know he's going to be trying to get out more, and he's awesome, which actually I'll swing it to another person that he actually just lost the Dreamwave title to. Channing Thomas is a guy that I know Thor and I have always talked about bringing in, but we just haven't found the spot for him yet. I love Channing's work. I love his work with Sidney Bacabella as his manager. He's somebody that I'd love to figure something out for, and I truly think is kind of a next up kind of guy.
Oh, yeah. Lehigh Valley. We seen him out there in Lehigh Valley when we went that time, Tom.
Yeah, big Channing Thomas guy.
Shouts to Ultramantis.
Yeah, trying to rack my brain around some others. It's tough because you see so many talents when you're kind of out and about. Because I don't want to throw people out there that people already know are good. Like, I could say like a Ryan Clancy, but people know Ryan Clancy's good. So I'm not like breaking the world down on a guy like that. Like, he's on IWTV every week wrestling different stuff. One other name I'll throw out there, and this is a name close that you'll know, is Rice Maddox. I just worked him recently on Black Label. He would be the son of WWE referee and timekeeper Jason Ayers.
Hey.
So Rice is somebody that is kind of on my radar for a Cultivate appearance at some point. I think he's freshly 18, but he's already been wrestling over a year. He's got a great passion for the business, so he's someone that just based on passion alone, and he drove from Orlando to Crown Point, Indiana for Black Label, which is unheard of anymore.
Oh.
So that's a hell of a drive. So
yeah, holy shit.
That's definitely some of the guys and girls I'm looking at right now in terms of having really big breakout years.
Yeah,
in 2025, 2026.
It's funny because Athena texted me the other day and she's like, "Hey, what do you think about doing like a carload exchange? Like some of your kids come down and work in Texas, and maybe some of my kids come up and work for you." And I said, Athena, like, the business has changed. I said, I can't even get people to drive around in Cleveland, and they live here. I said, they can't even get to these shows. I don't know how they're going to find their way to Texas.
8 years ago, I would have been all on that. I would have said, let's do it. I'm spoiled too much. I get flown too much now. I could never imagine getting in a car from Cleveland to Texas. I would not be about that. The only allure there.
Local big shot promoter and AIW superstar John Thorne and Dom Greeny.
The only allure to getting in that car would be I'd finally get the chance to go to Buc-ee's.
Hell yeah! You've never been to one, Dom?
It's just I've never been kind of in a spot where I've had a chance to go to one. Sadly.
No kidding. Love that place. That place rules.
Fucking fly around guy, Dom.
I knew you were going to do that to me.
Okay, another question came in from Nick H.
You didn't sound pretentious at all when you said that. I swear.
I know. I'm an asshole.
Nick H wants to know: will we ever see Violence is Forever in AIW?
No.
It comes back down to this, and anybody who ever asks me, I explain it like this: you have the chance to see me to Violence is Forever almost everywhere else. You don't have the chance to watch me wrestle singles everywhere else. It kind of is the draw of me and AIW at this point. So it's really the only place I wrestle singles wrestling at this point. So I actually do enjoy the fact that I get to have kind of a separate entity of my character and myself. So I like the idea of being singles. And if for whatever reason the story ever works out, I'll pitch it. But I've known it not going to work out.
I just some of that stuff, like sometimes, like it's just like I don't know if it's just like the just resistance in me about everything, you know, my whole life. Like I just, if somebody does this, I don't want to do it, you know, like
you're simply doing it out of spite now.
I think it's just because I was the only child for 10 years and I just fucking got my way. So, like, everybody else is doing it, I don't want to do it, you know? Okay. Maybe when, like, no one else is doing it and, you know, one of you guys gets canceled or something, maybe I'll go, okay, maybe I'll give you guys a shot. Maybe I'll try it now and nobody else is going to fucking do it. But until then, I don't know. I don't know. Like, some of the stuff, I think it's just, like, also subsidizes a lot of other people's bad booking. So like it just like, you know, it just like enables it a little bit more. And, you know, I just think there's such a lack of creativity across the board anymore, you know, not saying that AIW is like this creative fucking juggernaut at all. I just think like, I don't know, like there's just other things that can be done. And I just think if you're gonna jump in and do what everyone else is doing, like you just blend in with everybody else. It goes back to what we talked about earlier with the content abyss and just like things not standing out. Like it's the same thing, you know, like if Violence is Forever is on this indie, what does it matter if they're in AIW? It doesn't, you know, it just blends together, you know. And then they're gonna be like do the pet peeve thing that I fucking hate, where it's just like, where can you see us this weekend? And it's just like 4 posters and nothing. Oh, that's my pet. That's my pet peeve.
I don't do that.
That's my pet peeve. It's fucking Sam Holloway special, dude. It's my pet peeve. Oh, where can you see Hardway this weekend? Here you go. No fucking ticket links. No fucking any information. Just fucking 3 posters to make himself look fucking more important.
You learned me a while ago on that. Actually, do you know who really shit on that when I was like coming up in the indies, and who really shit on the idea of posting all your bookings together and not like separating them? Cody Rhodes.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he likes me that much, but we're aligned on that.
You are aligned on that. I remember him being like, hey, like, it doesn't hurt to post about your Friday booking on, you know, Thursday, and then your Saturday booking Saturday morning, and then if you have a Sunday booking, book that on Sunday morning with, you know, your links.
Or you can go Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, like,
and then switch it back. Yeah.
And you can create more content that way, you know, like you can do a promo for each one, like all this other shit, like, you know, if you have an engaging social media following.
Correct.
But I hate that though. Like, where can you see me this weekend? Like, whenever it's just like I get a tag close to a show, and it's just like, why did this fucking, or we get a like on AIW, and it's just like, why did you know, this promotion just give me a notification? And I click on it, and it's like somebody that's just like, oh, here's my 3 bookings for the weekend. You know, I never like them. I never give them any sort of impression or engagement, because it takes you 1 second to post a different thing. Drives me nuts. But that is my position on the Violence is Forever scenario. Is, you know, I just think everyone else does it, so I don't think AIW needs to do it. I think, you know, we can do other things with Dom, and, you know, it gives him an opportunity to also add different things to his skill set, and, you know, not become so complacent as a tag team wrestler either.
Fair answer. Nick also wants to know, Dom specifically, last question for you. He says you've been doing more deathmatch stuff in the last 12 months or so. Who would you like to face in the deathmatch scene that you haven't yet faced?
First and foremost, I don't think I've been doing more deathmatch stuff. I did the Pondo stuff for
Terror
Ranger,
Cage,
and we did the Terror Cage. I think that's it.
Yeah,
I didn't do anything GCW related. I haven't been in ICW in a while. Like, so let's cycle back on the more deathmatch stuff recently.
You're not a ghoul, is what you're saying?
I mean, I don't know. Have you seen your scars on your arms?
I have. It's crazy. That's from like one singular match. Like, and I remember Colby Carino looked at the scars on my arms once, and he just goes, "I'm so jealous of you because I can't scar." I was like, dude, this is not something to be jealous of, man. Like, I'm a fucking idiot. But
they itch very badly.
I explain my want to do death matches very simply. I grew up as a big ECW guy. When I lived in Florida, I watched it on Sun Sports, and I liked hardcore wrestling, and I'd watch ECW on TNN. And then when ECW died, I found like CZW and XPW, and that was like my first introduction to deathmatch wrestling. And I loved deathmatch wrestling. There's actually, I think Kaplan has my Smart Mark video copy of TOD4, signed by Necro, Toby Klein, and I forgot, somebody else signed it. I forgot who. And I always wanted to do some deathmatch stuff. So to me, I don't ever want to be like primarily a deathmatch wrestler, but I think once every 6 to 12 months, I have this itch to do it just to kind of get it out of my system.
So you're saying when Violence is Forever comes to AIW, they're going to wrestle Necro Butcher and Drake Younger.
I mean, I wouldn't turn that down, but sadly, my tag team partner not a deathmatch guy.
Yeah, well, to see, there you go. Another reason why I'm not going to book him.
So if I had to pick some deathmatch scene guys to work, one that I'd love to work is Drew Parker. I like Drew. I think he's very good at the style. I think that he adds a lot more than just the kind of hack and slash that a lot of guys do with it. So I'd like to wrestle him, and he's kind of the main one. And I think we had come close to maybe going to do something when I was in GCW. And then if I had to pick one more, I like Cyclope a lot from GCW. We did a lot of tag stuff together, but never got to do like the proper death match together.
I like Cyclope from WCW.
I know, yeah. I knew you were going to say that. But otherwise, I've gotten a chance to work a lot of like deathmatch guys in some way, shape, or form, and even in some hardcore scenarios. Like I got to work John Wayne Murdoch, who I think is one of the best at death matches going right now, and I know John would agree on that. Like John Thorne would agree that John Wayne is.
I think he's just a good performer overall.
He is.
not a. I mean, he had a little run there, last year for AIW.
Well,
where he was doing some heel stuff, and I thought like it was tremendous. And then I don't know, we just kind of fell out of touch. Where he got too busy, but I thought he was doing some great work.
I don't know if you and I had talked about this, but like he worked with Tracy Smothers a lot in IWA near the end of Tracy's kind of like career run life there. So he learned a lot from Tracy, and that's where a lot of his heel stuff comes from, is the ability to work directly with Tracy. So he cites Tracy a lot for things like that. So
I thought he did some great work, and again, much like everyone else is doing Violence is Forever, no one else is doing it. Like we were booking John Wayne Murdoch in non-deathmatch stuff because it was different. I think everybody expected to see a death match, and that's not what he. The most he did was like maybe a door. But he was really just doing good heel work, and I just thought it was different, a different usage, a different way to do things. Like, again, I don't know if it's just my dumb just resistance to what everyone else is doing, but I thought it was an interesting way to use him as opposed to, putting him out there. And, he's a tremendous deathmatch wrestler. He would have did some crazy things, but I think that people seeing him in a different way certainly made it somewhat memorable in a way. I hope it's just that's at least the hope when we do stuff like that, is to do it differently than everybody else. And maybe it stands out, maybe it doesn't, but I just think it's just unique to try to use people in different ways. Look at Mad Dog Conley, at the night show at Jaylit. I went out there and, it was pretty much in a comedy match, like just a different usage of, this crazy person. Stuff like that, I think, just makes a more unique experience for at least the live fans in attendance, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That was pretty much it for questions for you, Dom. Anything else you guys want to get to? We do have tickets on sale for Hell on Earth too. Black Friday this
Tommy
year.
Dreamer finally making his debut after 20 years.
Yeah, we got a lot of big names, a lot of stuff to get announced for that show. That show is.
Do he and Duke still have heat?
I don't know. Tommy Dreamer was supposed to be on our Untrained show in like the year 2000, and he canceled because I think he started the invasion, so he sent the Sandman in his place. And that's the first time I ever saw illicit drugs when I was 17 years old.
Not a bad replacement though.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, right.
I mean, I just saw him, because I picked him up from the airport. He had a FUBU baseball jersey on. I'll never forget it. Me, Sandman, and Francine at the Cleveland airport. He was,
yeah.
But Dreamer canceled for the invasion, so he sent the Sandman, and then the Sandman cracked his Singapore cane over Matt Wadsworth's head.
Oof.
And he fucking got him, dude. He fucking got him. When I say he got him, he fucking got him, dude. That was one straight from fucking Eastern Arts from the Parmatown Mall. He
legendary store right there.
He fucking, dude, he got his ass. Mortimer P. Flanagan, the heel authority figure, fucking got cracked by the Sandman that day. He fucking got his ass. But, yeah, and I've talked to Dreamer various times, though, throughout the years, and it just didn't line up, didn't work out. And the fucking craziest thing is, I started reaching out to all these people because I was like, we really need somebody for Hell on Earth. And I was finally able to work a deal with Dreamer. And now, fucking all these other people got back to me, and it's just like, I don't know if I can say no, So now Hell on Earth...
you said it was
Hell on Earth
from nobody to stacked.
Hell on Earth is fucking stacked. Announcements are going to start rolling out on Patreon. But, man, get those tickets now. Because if that show does not sell out the Globe, we're doomed. I'm telling you.
No, that's going to be a sellout.
We are fucking doomed. I'll tell you what. And then, Nick Nemeth was announced for our return to Akron, December 27th.
Yeah.
Only 10 front row tickets left for that already.
Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, finally making his AIW debut. I mean, people have been asking about that for a long time.
We're over 2 months out, and we've already sold over 100 tickets for that. So that one is going to be packed because this place, the Royal Palace, is much smaller than the Tadmor Shrine. So it's not like the old days of the Tadmor Shrine where there's fucking 400 bleacher seats and you can just show up. You're going to get turned away if you go that route. I'm pretty certain of that because there are no bleachers in this place. It's kind of like Roxy sized.
It looks a little tighter than Tadmor for sure.
Yeah, it's very Roxy-esque, Roxy Odeon-esque. Just a kind of narrow room, a little smaller, but maybe kind of like the width of that first room we did at Temple Live, the red room upstairs. Where it was just not as wide, but it was kind of like straight back.
The asylum room, yeah.
But yeah, if you're an Akron person that's just like, I'm just going to show up that day and get a ticket, like, I don't fucking think so.
No, and we've got more to announce for some people on that, too, so. It's, the
I don't even know who I've booked. I have to get it all.
The end of the year that we've booked is very strong, and for anybody that's ever maybe tried to complain about star power, you will lose any argument that you ever had on these last couple of shows this year.
Yeah.
Except for Cultivate. That's going to be full of fucking nobodies, but that's the point.
Dice.fm for those Cultivate tickets. Let's pack the Roxy for the possible debuts of some people, and let's, as we talked about, let's cultivate some new talent here, to lead us into the future here for AIW.
Hell yeah. Well, anything else? That seems like a good place to end it, in my opinion. Anything else before you want to get out of here, Thorn?
No, let's just sell those tickets again. I think go ahead.
I'll murder my DMs and my email. If you are a wrestler that wants to try to get on Cultivate and you actually want your message seen in a timely manner, you can either DM me on Twitter, my Facebook, because it's the same name as I have everywhere else, or email me at Dominic, DOMINIC, at AIWrestling.com. Send me your stuff, and, if I watch it and I like it, I'll be in touch with you, I'll consult with John, but we're looking to fill some spots on this show and give some people some opportunities, so send your stuff. And if you've ever had the idea of wanting to work for AIW, this is your chance.
Dom, that you said that the name is the same on your Twitter and Facebook, is that what you said?
Oh, I just mean the spelling, because it's my normal wrestling name is my normal name. That's what I meant by it, but...
Yeah, they call that your shoot name. In case you didn't know. That's the shoot name.
My shoot name and my work name are the same.
Shooting, brother.
That's my shoot name, brother.
My shoot name, brother.
You're not going over the fucking the term book at the wrestling school anymore, huh?
Sorry. Well, they wouldn't understand it anyways.
Kizabe Fizabe.
Could you imagine doing that?
No. Be like, are we working or are we shooting?
Oh, I hit
What's
that
your
one.
What's your work name? What's your shoot name?
I hit that one the other night to some guys that weren't understanding how to be loose on some chain wrestling stuff. I said, "You guys working? You guys shooting?"
You gotta get the glossary over there. 2-finger handshakes, all that
boy.
good stuff.
Oh my gosh!
Hey, brother, wrestle on Thursdays. Hey, brother. Hey, no more Thursdays for us. Fridays only at Cultivate. But could potentially move to a Thursday. You never know.
You never know.
We'll see.
It depends on how the concept evolves. But again, we need the support. We need the people that are involved to take it seriously. It's really a group effort. So yeah, hopefully people come out and support these final 3 shows of the year. And we are trying to get a schedule together for 2026, hopefully soon.
Hell yeah. All right, well, for myself, for John Thorne, for Dominic Garrini, for everybody else at Absolute Intense Wrestling, thanks. Get those tickets for Hell on Earth. Get those tickets for Cultivate, and we'll see you guys. Thanks.